Well, this message really is around how to pay more tax because you're doing so much better, because you've 10 times your income. We all know that there's only two ways, and I've said this too on the podcast before, there's only two ways of increasing the profit in your business. And the purpose of a business is to make a profit. Even if it's a charity, it's all about making a profit so that you can do more good. And if that's the case, your objective is to make more profit, then there are only two ways of doing that. One, you can reduce costs, and the other, you can increase sales. They're the only two ways that I know of doing either of those things. And if you think about that, I'm sure you can reduce costs right now. You can save 5% here and 10% there and 2% somewhere else. But the real leverage, the real opportunity, as it were, is to increase sales, clearly. There are only three ways of doing that, by the way. One is to get more customers in the door. Number two is to increase what's known as the average transaction value. In other words, the average amount of money each customer spends each time they buy from you. And three is to increase the frequency of repurchase. In other words, to get them coming back and buying from you either more frequently or again and again. So to use a supermarket metaphor, you need to get more people in the door of your supermarket. You need to get them to fill their basket more with more products or services, or maybe more expensive products or services. And then you need to get them to come back and buy, ideally only from you, and not go to the other supermarkets or other shops to buy other things. And so, one of the big mistakes that I see in business is that people spend most of their time, money and effort trying to get new customers. And that's often the hardest, most difficult thing to do. Your best chance of selling anything to anybody ever is obviously when you've sold it to them already, because they're already, they've put their hand in their pocket and they've bought something from you, providing that something was obviously good quality and or a good service, then, they're more likely to come back and buy from you again. So if this is all about how to pay more tax and how to make your business grow, how to 10 times your tax and therefore 10 times your business, how are you going to do that? What are you going to do? What is that, that key to 10 times? And let me just be clear on this. I'm talking about growing your business by 10 times. So if you're turning over 100,000, it's how to get to 1 million. If you're turning over 1 million, it's how to get to 10 million. Turning over 10 million, guess what? It's how to get to 100 million. How to get your business to the next level. And there are only, if it's all about making more profit, and if that's all about reducing costs a little bit but mainly increasing sales, then doesn't it make sense that you're that's just an obvious thing to me. You've got to become better at creating sales. So if you're going to do that, what are the keys to that? Well, the keys sort of fall into two areas, don't they, really? One is got to be lead generation, and the other has got to be lead conversion. So you've got to generate more leads, then you've got to become better at converting those leads. So firstly, if we look at generating leads, the first thing to consider is, what are you actually doing? What are you doing right now to generate leads? And also, how many leads are you currently generating? So let's assume that you've got a website. You're probably doing something on social media. Perhaps you network. You go to networking events, chambers of commerce, BNI, Federation of Small Business, For Business, whatever it is. You're going along to these events. Perhaps you're doing some email marketing. You've got an email and you're doing a little bit of that, and maybe you're doing some pay-per-click advertising using Google AdWords. So you've got about 4 or 5 different, what I call streams of income. How are you going to do better? Well, you could go and develop some new streams of income. So if you're not exhibiting, you could go and exhibit. If you're not using Facebook, then you could try using Facebook. If you're not using remarketing, you could try that. If you're not doing pay-per-click on LinkedIn, you could try that too. And in fact, there's a whole range of things. You're only doing, after all, 4 or 5 things. If you double that to 10 things, 20 things, and so on and so forth, then that might be something to do. However, there's clearly a problem with this, and I know you've identified it in your mind right now, and that problem is, that's all a cost, Steve. If I, spend a load of money on pay-per-click advertising on LinkedIn, that may or may not work. I may finish up losing a load of money and not gaining a load of money, and that's very, very true. And that often comes down to what I believe, anyway, is a lack of expertise. People go ahead and they set up Google AdWords without ever even having any training or knowing what to do or how to do it. They then have a go at email marketing, and 6 weeks in, they decide email marketing doesn't work anymore. They then go on to LinkedIn, do a little bit of LinkedIn marketing, and again make a decision a little while later that this is a waste of time and nobody wins any business on LinkedIn. And I'm here to tell you that is simply not the truth. People do win business on LinkedIn. We win business on LinkedIn. And there's no reason why your business shouldn't be making, at least 50,000 plus of income on LinkedIn from each person who works for you on LinkedIn. So, there is income out there. It's just a matter of, not only doing the right marketing, but doing the right marketing in the right way. It's one of my sort of key cliche sayings. I say to people, it's not that you're doing the wrong marketing, you're doing the right marketing, but you're not necessarily doing it in the right way. And so my advice to you at this point is this. You got to take what you're doing and work out how you can 10x it. In other words, get 10 times the results from it. If you're spending £1,000 on marketing, really what you want is at least 10 back. And, that's what you should be aiming to achieve. Hopefully 20 back or 30 back or 100 back. But what we really want to do is to make sure that what we're doing is more profitable. So let me give you an example of what I think is probably going wrong in your business. And that's based on over 25 years working with small businesses, in thousands of businesses, in truth, in hundreds of industries for many, many years. And often, let me think of an example here. I'll tell you what, I'll use LinkedIn because that's a prime example of what people do wrong. So what do people do wrong on LinkedIn? If you think what LinkedIn is, LinkedIn is 550 million people connected worldwide in a networking event. Now, we all know the power of networking. It's a great way of winning business. And the problem is that we don't actually do it. We don't turn up to the networking event to start with. So one of the biggest problems on LinkedIn is people don't turn up. I hear people say, well, I'm on LinkedIn and I get these people connecting to me occasionally and I normally just delete them. And I don't really, I've only got 150 contacts. And, I occasionally, I post on there, once a week. I try and do it once a week, to make sure I'm at least doing something. I'm in a couple of groups, but I don't really do anything in there. And, it just doesn't work for me, Steve. And so, it's very, very important to make sure that whatever you're doing is working as effectively as it possibly could. So we need to ramp this up. We need to do better. How many posts should you be doing on LinkedIn? Well, if you're not winning business from it, you just got to do more. How do you get 10 times the results on LinkedIn? You put 10 times more effort into it. It's almost as simple as that. And you do it 10 times better. I'll give you an example. How many people do you connect to every day on LinkedIn? Actually go out there, finding your target market and asking them to connect. If you're like 99% of the businesses that I speak to, the answer is pretty much none. You just don't do that. You don't go out there. You don't try and find people, and you finish up hardly connecting to any. That's why you've only got 150 people. At the moment, I ask 10 people every day to connect. I really ought to ramp that up. I'd like to be more like 20, 25 or 30. But with the resources we've got, we're on about 10 people a day. About 80% of those say yes. And so once I've got them into my LinkedIn system, I can then export them into my email system, obviously with their permission, and I get that by phoning them up. I pick up the phone and talk to them, have a conversation about business and life and LinkedIn and marketing and see where they are. I maybe offer them a meeting dependent on whether, I think I can help them and whether they need any help. And then, I've got the opportunity then to move that forward, hopefully in the meeting to a sale and maybe a new client. And so, that's sort of, it's not all my system on LinkedIn, but that's part of it. But my point being, you need to do more. You need to do 10 times more, or you need to become 10 times better at what you're already doing. The same applies with networking. You join the Chamber of Commerce and you turn up to an event occasionally. Now, that ain't going to do it. What about email marketing? I hear people say, well, we don't want to send out too many emails. Because, I had a couple of people, we sent an email out twice in, once a week over 2 weeks, and we had a couple of people complain. Good. I'm glad they've complained. I hope they've unsubscribed. I hope people unsubscribe from my emails. If you're on my email system and you don't value it and you don't read my emails, I want you to do me a really big favour and unsubscribe. There'll be no offence taken. I won't be upset. Actually, I'll think it's a good thing to do. I don't want to be sending out emails to people who are not interested in what I've got to say, how I can help them, and the information that I'm providing. So, that's a good thing. You need to be in more regular contact with your market. The biggest problem I see in small business, and as I said, I've been doing this 30 years now, and you don't have to be too intelligent to notice there are similar problems. The biggest problem, I think, apart from the fact that marketing often doesn't get done, the biggest problem that small businesses face is the word obscurity. Nobody's heard of them. Nobody's heard of them. When I say nobody, I mean it's a very, very small percentage of people that actually know you. Let's say, for example, your target market is small business owners in the UK. Okay, so if that's your target market, small business owners in the UK, then there are, I think, something like 2.8 million of them. So my question to you is, how many of those are on your database? How many of those are you connected to on LinkedIn? How many of those are you marketing to on a regular basis? And the answer is probably virtually none of them. And so that's an issue, isn't it? We've got to grow our database. One of the things I talk about a lot with people is something I call crowd development. Do you think that if you were sending emails out to 500,000 people every time you sent an email, you could win more business than you do sending it out to your 1,000 people that you've currently got on your email system? Do you think that if you had, instead of having 150 contacts on LinkedIn, you had 1,500 or, 11,000 or 20,000, do you think if you had 30,000 contacts on LinkedIn, you'd have a better chance of winning business on LinkedIn? I absolutely know you would. You could be sending out anything, and you're going to win more business than if you've only got 150, probably. So my point being, that crowd development or growing your database is one of the key success drivers of any business. Okay, you may say, well, we're in a real niche market. We've only got 150 people in our market, Steve. Well, that's great. As long as you've got all those 150 in your database and you're marketing to them, and the real goal here in business, I believe, as far as sales and marketing is concerned, is to get people to know you, like you, and trust you. So look at how many leads you're creating at the moment, and then set yourself a target, perhaps of 10 times in it. I want to get 10 times the number of leads that I'm currently getting into this business. Now, I know it won't happen overnight, but you're working towards that. Wouldn't it be horrible if you didn't quite succeed and only got 9 times more customers or 8 times more, leads into your business? The next thing then is to think about conversion rates. And this is, one of the biggest opportunities right now. If you get 100 leads into your business in a day, in a week, in a month, in the year, whatever that is, I'll use a month by way of example. So you're getting 100 leads into your business every month, coming from, your different marketing, from referral and word of mouth and, your website and social media and networking and so on. You're getting 100 leads and you're currently converting, let's say, 30 of those, 30 of those are being converted into customers. So in other words, you've got a 30% conversion rate. If you could improve that by 30%, what would happen to your business? Well, straight away, or very quickly, you're going to double the size of your business. You're going to double the size of your business. Instead of creating 30 sales, by increasing it from 30% to 60%, in other words, a 30% increase in conversion rate, you've doubled the size of your business. And yet I see so many business owners, when I ask them, are you responsible for selling in your business? Oh, yeah, it's down to me, yeah. And what's your conversion rate? They say, well, I don't really know. No idea. Don't know, probably about 20-30%, something like that. And I said, okay, so when was the last time you did any sales training? Well, I've never done any sales training, Steve. Or, well, I did a half-day workshop about 3 years ago. And, that's about it, really. That, again, it's just not good enough, guys. It's just not good enough. Are you willing to settle for mediocrity? Are you going to take your business to the next level? Are you serious about taking action? Because if you are, one of the keys is got to be improving your and your team's sales skills. And if you don't do that, you're always going to get what you've always got. In fact, you're probably not even going to get what you've always got, because things are going to get more competitive in the future. Things are going to change. Things sometimes over the next, 2, 3 or 10 years, we're going to have another recession. Things are going to be tight. Things are going to be difficult. And you've got to have your business there prepared for that. Doesn't mean you're going to fail. What it means is you've got to be in the top, probably 1% if I was honest, but certainly in the top 10%. And what do most business owners do in terms of sales and marketing? They have no training in sales. Their conversion rates are in the floor. They don't have answers to simple questions like, I want to think about it, or I'm not really sure, I want to get another quote. They don't have, answers to good objections. They have no sales system. They do no sales skills training. They have, and as far as marketing's concerned, they often have they'll say, well, I don't really understand social media, Steve. I really don't get digital marketing. I just don't understand it. It's just not me. That's just not good enough. That's me. In fact, it's not even mediocre. It's poor. There is no longer an excuse for saying, I don't understand digital marketing. You've got to understand it, at least to a level where if you're going to outsource it to someone like us or another company, at least you know what good looks like. At least you know whether they're doing a good job for you. And at least you know whether they know what they're doing or not. And that, I think, is really, really important for you to have at least a reasonable knowledge about your sales and marketing and how it works. So I hope you sort of understand my passion here. I know I've been on a bit of a rant in this podcast, but it's just really my passion in terms of helping people. My aim has always been for 25 years to try and help as many small businesses as I can to be successful. That's always been the goal. It's never changed, and I'm pretty sure it always will be. It will be very easy for me to go and find, go and get a job as a, managing director of a big company, or go and get, 4 or 5 smaller companies and, have a nice day rate, shall we say, as an external consultant. But that's not what I'm about. What I'm about is trying to help as many small businesses as I can to become successful. And I really hope you're going to be one of them. Go to my website, stevemills.co, sign up to my association. It's £25 a month. It is a total and utter no-brainer. And why not join our results program? Come and work with me 1 day per month as part of a group. It costs you £299. If I can't make you an additional 10 times that, then, to be honest, I'd give you your money back. I'd say as strong as that. It really is a no-brainer. You really need to think about, doing that. And if you're really struggling in terms of delivery and you just don't have time for all this stuff, then, why not outsource it to us or somebody else, anybody? Just make sure you get this thing called marketing handled, and you get it handled as well as you can. So that's it. Sorry I've gone on a little bit longer than I normally do on this podcast, but I hope you found it really, really valuable, and I look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Thanks very much for listening.